Good afternoon, Explore Cam viewers. My name is BJ Kirchhoffer. I'm the Director of Field Operations for Polar Bears International, and I'm joined here with Anthony Pagano.
Hi, everybody.
Anthony, who are you with exactly? You've got a few different institutions you're tied with, right?
I am, yeah. So I'm a postdoctoral research fellow biologist, and I work for the Institute for Conservation Research with San Diego Zoo Global, and I also work through Polar Bears International.
So we're sitting here, we're just close to the Tundra Buggy Lodge, where if you tuned in before to Lodge North or Lodge South, those cameras are not too far away, but we've got a mom and cub here that wandered in maybe an hour or so ago, and this bear has a collar on it.
It does, yeah. Yeah, we were looking at it, and it looks like the collar looks to be pretty recent. We could see that the mom seems to be wearing it quite well, and she's got a cub of the year with her.
So cub of the year, this cub would have been born in January, so it's about to turn 1 year old, is that right?
That's right, yeah. It would have been born January, and probably came out of, the mom probably came out of the den sometime around March, I would guess, with this cub, and yeah, it'll be coming up to its birthday in January.
We were trying to figure out how long ago this collar would have been put on this bear. The cub also has ear tags, so really means that this cub and mother were caught together either during the spring work or during the fall work that would have just happened here in Hudson Bay. Is that right?
Yep, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they do research on the ice in the spring, and then they'll also capture some bears on land in the fall here on the shore.
So we're getting a pretty good look at the belly of Mama Bear here.
Yeah, it's great to see her rolling over. I wonder if the cub will get a chance to nurse while she's laying down. No, it looks like she's going to get back up.
So there's a black thing on the back side of the collar that's facing the camera now. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so all the collars that get put out on polar bears, they have an automatic release mechanism. Most of those are set for a certain date to release after a certain period of time, so that the bears only wear those for usually about a year or 2 years, depending on the research project, and then the collar will actually drop off and fall off either on land or onto the ice.
What's the recovery rate? So once these collars are dropped off, how successful are scientists at being able to recover these things?
Yeah, in my experience, it's pretty low. Certainly, if they fall off on the sea ice, they're on a moving surface. A lot of times, where I do my work in the Beaufort Sea north of Alaska, they'll drop off onto the ice, and then the ice will drift and move way up into the high areas of the Arctic Basin, way too far, any place we could access it with a helicopter, and eventually, a lot of times, once the ice melts, they just end up falling into the bottom of the ocean. But if it comes off on land, then certainly have much better chance of coming out and recovering those collars.
Pretty interesting behavior we're seeing here. Of course, one of mom's most important jobs is to teach her cubs how to become successful polar bears. And if you look, this young cub is doing almost exactly what mom's doing in every place that mom does it.
Yeah, it's really neat to see her out there. She seems to be rolling around in the willow and rubbing against the snow, and that, of course, is a great way to get cleaned off. A lot of times you'll watch birds and they'll be preening and grooming their feathers, and polar bears, of course, like to stay nice and clean as well, and they spend a lot of time grooming themselves, licking themselves like a dog or a cat would, and they also will roll around in the snow and get all clean, and it looks like the cub's doing a little bit of that right now.
It's super cute. That's funny.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so I think this is maybe the second mom and cub we've had on the cam this year. So we haven't seen a lot of cubs this year, so it's nice to see this here in Hudson Bay. Of course, if you want a healthy polar bear population, you need to have cubs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pretty amazing to think that this female and the cub have been on land now for over 130 days now. Female probably hasn't had anything to eat for even longer than that. And she still has to be able to lactate and provide milk for her cub that's keeping that cub alive. But it's great to see that both her and the cub look to be in really good condition, considering they've been on land now for like I said, about 130 days.
So when you're trying to assess the body condition here of these two bears, what are you looking for? What are your kind of telltale signs to say this is a bear that's healthy versus a bear that maybe isn't doing so well?
Yeah, so once they start getting skinny, you can really start to see it around their shoulder area. The bones of the shoulder start to become much more prominent when they're in good condition, like these bears. They basically, the body looks much more streamlined, and there's no sort of protruding bones that you might see in a much more skinny animal. Certainly the around the belly area, it tends to look more full in bears that are in good condition. And then the rump area as well, that tends to be a good place for storing fat, and as the bears start burning that fat, it gets smaller and smaller. But these two look like they're in good shape, and they have still some good amount of fat on their rump area and around their shoulder region, where a lot of that fat will accumulate.
Yeah, that cub really isn't getting too far away from mom, is it?
Nope, it's definitely staying close. Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to tell, of course, that this is a female adult bear, because male bears do not raise cubs. They just take off, of course, after mating season is done. We only have females. But how about for the cub there? How easy is it to tell the gender of a cub?
Yeah, cubs are really hard. The first couple of years, the male and female cubs will grow at the same rate, so there's no real size difference between males and females as cubs, which makes it hard to distinguish them. So sometimes, if you see them go pee or something, you might be able to get a chance to...
And that's what we're looking at right now, aren't we?
Oh yeah, sure enough.
Yeah, so this one's peeing and it's coming out the back, so we have a female cub.
Great, yeah, so there you go.
Look at us, science right here on Buggy One.
One telltale way of identifying the gender of a cub, because otherwise, yeah, their size is pretty much indistinguishable.
That was pretty good timing on all that, I might say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Maybe the cub is listening in.
I would guess. I mean, all smart polar bears tune into the polar bear cam.
Yeah, they're certainly close enough. They might even be able to hear us from here. You never know.
Yeah.
They do have pretty acute senses of hearing, for sure.
Yeah, and so the San Diego Zoo Institute for Conservation Research actually did a lot of work on hearing, didn't they?
They did,
Dr.
yeah.
Megan Owen over there.
That's right, yeah. Megan Owen and the zookeepers there, they were interested in trying to better understand the hearing sensitivity of polar bears, in particular for trying to understand sensitivity of denning females, whether they might be disturbed by industrial activity near den sites. And so they wanted to be able to test how sensitive polar bear hearing is, to see what frequency ranges they might be more or less sensitive to, based on different sounds coming from industrial vehicles and things like that.
Too cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, this is pretty exciting that we get to see a mom and cub here, because we just haven't seen many moms and cubs. Maybe we should talk a little bit about kind of the process here. So what time of year is mating season?
Yeah, mating season would be in the spring, so typically around April is kind of the prime time when males are searching for females in estrus, and the females have what's called a delayed implantation, so they'll breed with the males in the spring, but then they don't actually get implanted until the fall, closer to when they're getting ready to go into dens, and then they'll go into dens in the later part of the fall. Some of the females here on land are likely already going into dens here around Hudson Bay, I would say, huh?
Yeah, I would guess. I've heard others talk that if you're a pregnant female in this population this time of year, you probably are starting to localize. You're going inland, looking for a place that you might want to build a den. And of course, dens are going to be different depending on where you are in the Arctic. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so here in Hudson Bay, there's actually earthen dens that they'll dig out, and they'll go into the tundra a bit and dig into the tundra until the snow starts falling and kind of covers up those den sites and makes them bigger. In other areas, they'll find areas where the snow drifts and accumulates, and they're able to dig out just snow dens and go into those snow dens. And then in the Beaufort Sea, some of the bears will even go into dens on the sea ice itself, which doesn't happen in too many parts of the Arctic to our knowledge, but it's one thing that we do see in the Beaufort Sea of bears actually denning on the sea ice.
So if they're about to head into the dens now, we're entering into November here, maybe it's worthwhile talking for sure about the bears here in Hudson Bay. Mom would have come off the ice at the same time of all the other bears here at the end of June, early July. Now hasn't eaten since that time, since she came off the ice, and now she's starting to enter into a den. When would Mom expect to be able to catch her next meal?
Yeah, so females that are preparing to den here in Hudson Bay, they'll be going, basically they'll have about a 4-month fast before they go into their den, and then they'll have another 4 months while they're in their den. So in total, they're going almost about 8 months without eating. And then part of that time, they're going to be lactating and nourishing their very small young cubs while they're in the den. And then finally, once those cubs are big enough and the weather's warm enough for them to start to come out of those dens in March, then they'll be able to finally get out onto the ice and hopefully be able to start catching seals pretty quickly.
And 8 months, that's a long time to go without a meal.
Yeah, exactly. And really the ability of those females to get out of the den and quickly catch seals will really determine the fate of those cubs. If she's able to get out and start catching seals right away, then those cubs will have a much better chance of surviving than if she's struggling to find food and having to extend that fasting period even longer than 8 months. Yeah.
Pretty wild. So again, the cubs are born about January 1st, we think, right around there. Don't we say that all the polar bears have a birthday of January 1?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. And then here in this population, they're going to come out of the den somewhere in the boreal forest, not too far from here, maybe. Sometime in late March, early March, somewhere in there. Yeah.
It's a little bit earlier here than it might be in more northern regions of the Arctic, because the climate here is a little bit warmer certainly than it is further north. But yeah, they'll come out of those dens on land and walk out till they can finally get out to the sea ice, and then hopefully start catching seals pretty quickly after that.
And then how long will these cubs stay with Mom?
Yeah, so the cubs stay with the moms typically for about 2.5 years. So that's a lot of responsibility for a female. The males really don't play any role in raising the cubs. So once they breed with the female, they're pretty much out of the picture, and it's all the responsibility of the female for about 2.5 years after those cubs are born. And they teach the cubs how to hunt seals, as we saw. The bears rolling around in the snow, certainly learning other behaviors like how to stay clean and how to groom themselves. But yeah, then the female's also lactating for close to 2 years.
For real? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so it's really not until close to the time that the females will push off the cubs at about 2 to 2.5 years that they stop lactating. And prior to that, the cubs are pretty dependent on the female for most of their nourishment and survival. Once they get to about a year, they'll start doing some attempts to capture seals, and they found that yearlings can have some moderate success in catching seals. I think the one documentation of it found maybe once every 60 days they might catch a seal. Once they get to two years old, by the summer they're starting to catch seals more frequently, but they're still somewhat reliant on the female, and then hopefully after that they're pretty independent.
So, just grab my colleague here. So here we are. It's we're entering into November here in Hudson Bay. These bears are all on land, but not on the sea ice. This isn't exactly where they want to be, right?
That's right. Yeah. No, they prefer to be on the sea ice. So the polar bears feed almost exclusively on seals that are relying on the sea ice. So ring seals and to a lesser extent bearded seals, and in some areas the ice does persist throughout the year, and the bears stay on the ice throughout the year. Here in Hudson Bay, it's what's called a seasonal ice area, where the ice melts away completely in the summer, and all the bears in this population are forced on land until the ice returns, and so they have to go through this fasting period where the ice is totally gone, and there's no access to those seals that are in the water. And the seals are happy to stay out in the water and away from the polar bears, but I'm sure the polar bears would be much happier out on the ice and catching seals than hanging out on land. But hopefully in the next month or two the ice will be returning. The bears that aren't going into dens can get back out and start catching seals again.
Well, we will be here to watch. Of course, the explore.org cameras will be rolling from Tundra Buggy Lodge, from Wapuss National Park, and from Tundra Buggy One for as long as the bears are here, up until the end of November. Once the Tundra Buggy operation shuts down here in Churchill, we will keep the Cape Churchill cams live through the winter, so we can kind of see how long the bears are here on land.
Neat.
And then any other wildlife that may happen by out there. So yeah. Well, yeah, so please stay tuned here on the explore.org cams. We're going to be here providing information. If you have any questions, be sure you send them our way here during these live chats. We're happy to answer that stuff. I'm not sure if we're getting any now. That's all right. We are getting tons of pictures on the side of the Buggy One cam, so thanks a lot for sending all those in, snapping those. That's all great stuff. I think for now we're going to sign off and go see if we can find some more polar bears. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and look forward to chatting with you here in the future.
Bye, everyone.